Listen to that. Well, hey there. It's your old pal Keith from wavetables.lol. That's wavetables.lol. Home of KRC Mathwaves, the world's largest collection of wavetables, single-cycle waveforms, and even some samples for all sorts of modern synthesizers and other things. And, listen to this for a sec. We're going to talk about like two new uses for wavetables today, because I'm always interested in new, fun, and creative wavetable applications beyond just synthesis, which of course I dearly love. So we've got a new spectral filter plugin called Wavefield from Fine Increments to look at today. And also a little waveform visualizer that works really well with wavetables. So we will get to Wavefield, which I think is really cool. And we heard there for a second. It's on multiple tracks in that little sketch. Let's just talk about wavetables for a second. So, I make a huge library of wavetables, and it's not even up here. It's called KRC Mathwaves. And there's a free version that has about 1,600 wavetables in it, and then there's the paid commercial version, which is $29, and contains more than 160,000 wavetables made with different mathematical techniques. A user of KRC Mathwaves reached out to me recently, a fellow by the name of Quentin, and Quentin said, "Hey, I built this like funky waveform explorer, and let me just demo it for you." There'll be a link in the description. It's at smallcircles.net/waveforms. The link's in the description. There's all these links in the description. Let's see, Serum. Let's just load a wavetable at random from the free collection. Okay, so you load up any like audio file, but wavetables work really well. And then you click the render button, and it makes you this like pretty cool. Let's see, maybe it's like that. Change the number of rows, maybe. It depends on the wavetable, like what results you'll get. But it creates an image that is not like a literal representation of the wavetable or waveform, but it's sort of it's like a graphic inspired by the Joy Division Unknown Pleasures album, right? Like you can see the resemblance there, can't you? Let's try a different one. Let's try one of these. Render. Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. And if I remember right, I should have this up too. What is happening, Keith? Here's one. Is this one large? Here's one. Can we open this in a new window? Let's see. Open in new window. I mean, this is somebody selling something on Etsy, right? But you know this classic cover. So this classic cover. It's from the 1980s for the Joy Division album Unknown Pleasures, is a classic of graphic design. And it's actually some like astrophysical data. So it's like star data that's being visualized. And so what Quentin did is Quentin was looking to make some custom shirts that had like different patterns on them. And so he vibe coded up this cool waveform visualizer. And as you can see, it is very much like the Unknown Pleasures album cover. And then the other cool thing you can do with this, you can change like the color of the outlines and stuff. Like let's see, we could change this. Where's the line color? Stroke color. If we wanted to change this to like wavetables.lol electric purple, right? We could do that. Do I have to hit render again? Maybe so. But yeah, you can see, right, that the wavetables work really well in this. And so, if you don't already have a huge library of wavetables, you can go get them at wavetables.lol and look for the free KRC Mathwaves sampler. Let's go get a different one that's like a little bit more mathematical in nature. We will go into, where's my ModWave folder? This is where I keep all my copies of KRC Mathwaves. Let's go to like KRC Math Volume 4. And let's get, we just use the .wave versions here. These are the Serum Vital no, not faceplant, serum vital pigments versions of these. Like, let's go get the saw exponential saws. So this is a wavetable that goes from, there we go, that goes from like a standard sawtooth wave to sawtooth waves that have more exponential slopes to them. And this is kind of cool. Let's see here. Let's change the resolution. And let's change the time per row until we get something cool. Now what Quentin's doing here is he's not visualizing like the entire like 2048 shape of the wavetable. But he's picking kind of different slices, but it's very interesting and kind of fun. And then what I forgot to finish my thought. There we go. Like that would be cool, right? Like, or this one's pretty good. Kind of like this. We could change the width to make it more like the classic album cover. There you go. Let's see. Does number of rows change things? Oh yeah, number of rows. Ooh, that's kind of neat. And so anyway, it's very fun. Go check it out. smallcircles.net/waveforms. Once you have something you like, you can export it as an SVG, as a scalable vector graphics file, so that you could print it on something, like maybe a Mathwaves t-shirt. And boy, wow, that pattern is making my eyes go all kind of wacky. I might want to put that on a shirt. Anyway, this is very fun to play around with. So there you go. One thing that you can do with wavetables, like if you have KRC Mathwaves. And keep in mind, anyone can have KRC Mathwaves. Now, another really nifty thing that came out this week, it's like in the past month, is a developer called Fine Increments, who is apparently this fellow. What is your name? Seth Watson. Introduced a plugin. I think it's his first plugin, and it's called Wavefield, and it's a spectral filter. But it's driven by wavetables. So like, let's isolate one of these tracks and like listen to it. So first, let's do this. We'll turn off, let's solo that, and then we'll just solo the drums too. Let's listen to it without Wavefield on it. I'm sorry if you've heard this track before, because if you listen to my most recent video about Omnisphere hacking, you've heard this, but so this pad sound, right, is like, this is an analog, like electric piano kind of sound with the strings from the 10cc choir, the vocals from the 10cc I'm Not in Love track that come in the background, right? And so it's just playing like this slow chord sequence. But like, listen to how Wavefield changes it. So it makes this spectral filter across the field. You can like change how the wavetables are affecting the right and the left channel, and it just makes this really cool filtering effect. We could even go grab a different preset here. These are all made, by the way, not all the presets, but the ones I'm showing here are made with KRC Mathwaves Flow Collection. How do I load this? Did I just double click it? There you go. So here's a Morley wavelet, or what's sometimes called a Morlet, or a Morlet wavelet, making this like spectral pumping on that pad. And I wasn't really expecting to like this plugin as much as I do. It's just fascinating, and it can do just really cool sounds. Like this is, different from using, just like a pumping kind of plugin or like a sidechain. It's a spectral pumping kind of effect. And depending on the wavetable, you'll get completely different results. And it has all these like sync options. It's really cool, and it sounds really good as well. So we're going to take a little deeper dive into that today. And, as usual, I'm going to take a break and refresh my drink, which I think is pretty much refreshed. And then we'll talk more about interesting uses for wavetables. Oh, like and subscribe for more talky synthesizer content. So another example here where we're using Wavefield on that same pad track is this one, which is using one of my Vosim collection wavetables. And so the Vosim wavetables are inspired by the vocal synthesizer technique, which basically it takes sine waves of different periods and then you envelope them in a particular way, and they have a very vocal quality when they're used as an oscillator. But here, we're using it to make this kind of whoa, 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 whoa sound that goes on here, right? It's very appealing. And here's with it off. And then we turn this up, and we get both some stereo spreading and then this spectral filtering. Diving a little deeper into some of the features of Wavefield that kind of make it so, I guess you might say, addictive. It's taken me a long time to do this video because there are just many, many cool features to it, and I think it's fun and it's creative and it's highly recommended. It has a 14-day trial period. I am going to buy it, and I was not sent this. I discovered it via John Skippy Lemcool's weekend stream. Of course, he's a plugin guru, makes Unify 2. He was demoing it, and I was like, oh, geez, this is really cool. It just awesome sounds that come out of it. It's very creative and fun, and making music should be fun, right? And plugins should be fun, and this is a fun plugin. Let's play something, Keith. So let's get this playing again, and I'll demonstrate that there are multiple actual shaping modes that this can do. So we're listening to phase warp right now. The default mode is called magnitude, and what magnitude does is it doesn't mess with the phases of the different frequencies, so you get a little more of a pure sound. But if you want more of that spectral kind of color-based spectral fuckery kind of sound, you can use phase warp mode, which lets the phases of the different frequency bands kind of rotate in strange ways. And then there's also this Spectral IR mode, which is completely different. What it does is it uses each frame of the wavetable that is being used as an impulse response. And so you get a little bit more with this mode. I don't know what to call it. It can sound a little like strange rooms, or like comb filtering and stuff, which I know is appealing in a lot of different kinds of music. So that's really flexible. I guess at this point, I should say that this plugin is not truly purely unique. There is, for example, Kilohearts has a filter table. Where is that? I think I have its page up. Filter table. Where are you, filter table? Filter table. Where'd you go? So there is filter table by Kilohearts, which is a wavetable powered filtering effect that does get similar results. I'm just reading the marketing copy here. It's very funny. But it doesn't natively have these kind of sync features and things. So, in Wavefield, it's designed actually with sync modes and designed with the motion kind of built in. So there's two modes here. Like right now, we are syncing to the clock in our DAW, and we are moving through this wavetable, which you can also say I've abbreviated. We'll talk about that. But we're syncing over 4 bars. And then, we could change this, right? Like if we wanted to move really fast, you get that kind of video game effect. Something a little slower might make a little more sense. So that's, more of an effecty effect. When it's on, over the course of 4 bars, this becomes more of an ambient sort of texture kind of effect. And if it's not syncing, the speed of these transitions is controlled by this speed dial here. So you can see that we're now moving through the wavetable very quickly, or we can move through it very, very slowly if we want to. Let's maybe listen to that, shall we? So it's capable of a lot of different effects. So this is like a very like slow spectral morph thing. And you know, you don't have to sync it to your DAW. Like this is sort of rhythmically in sync, right? But I do like the sync function. When you're syncing or when you're in just the speed mode, there are different playback modes for the wavetable, so you could just move forward through it, and then it will wrap back around to the start. So you see we get 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll be back to 1 here. If that transition between the last and the first one is too sharp for you, it's not in this particular wavetable, but you can turn this crossfade option, the X-fade button up here. You can also kind of stop morphing and like just lock to the keyframes in steps, and so you see we'll be stuck on this frame for like 4 bars, which isn't going to work very well for us here. But let's change this to like maybe, I think like a dotted quarter note. And now you can hear that it's kind of locked to those chords that are coming in. I guess other little cool features here, there's the stereo knobs. The stereo knob changes the offset of where we are in the wavetable for the left and right channels. So we can have it like as non-stereo, or we can move the stereo effect up. And so our spectral filter becomes a spatializer in a way. So it's very cool. The other thing that this particular little patch in Wavefield is showing off, and I need to stop that for a second. One thing that this is showing off is the fact that you've got controls for the wavetable start and the wavetable end. So this is, you know, one of the KRC Mathwaves wavetables. So it has 64 frames inside of Wavefield. It's hard to say that. It's hard to remember what this thing is called. It's Wavefield, Keith. Hey, like and subscribe for more talky synthesizer content. Anyway, in Wavefield, I think it resamples to like 128 frames. Anyway, wavetable import works perfectly, so that's not an issue. But you can see that this would be a very different effect if I were using the entire wavetable. Let's take this back to, let's say like 2 bars and sync, and we'll go back to ping pong. And now it's going to sync to my DAW transport. Oh, let's turn off chaos steps. Okay, so now we have that sound. And there's, to me, when I first loaded this wavetable, I was like, oh, that's a little too much motion, right? So if I just want to take a portion of the wavetable, I can do that, and I'll just adjust the end here, and you'll see over in the wavetable editor, there is a wavetable editor. You can draw your own wave shapes, which does make sense here, but I haven't used that feature much. I've just been using my own wavetables. So we can just dial this way down. I guess I had it at about 6, and that to me was a really more interesting effect. You can see in this part of the wavetable, there are these interesting little transitions that are not moving much, but the frequencies are kind of moving against each other, right? And it's creating a very interesting effect. You can smooth things out if you want to, so this thing basically puts some hysteresis into the loop, and so you can see the changes are not going to be as dramatic all the time. It's just, you can get all sorts of really flexible effects. So I think next we should probably talk about like actually how the custom wavetable works, the importing works in Wavefield, and show off some other things there. It's not ideal, I think, the way that it imports right now, but maybe that's something that Fine Increments could change in a future version. I do want to note that even though I suspect this plugin might be at least partly vibe coded, it's very well done. And so the person behind it put a lot of thought into it. It's pretty performant, and they're dedicated to updates. Like I got it just a couple days ago, and there have been like 4-point updates since the original release of Wavefield, including one that fixed a bug that was like really like causing me problems in demoing inside of Bitwig. So anyway, it's just getting better and better all the time. So next we'll take a look at wavetable import. Okay, so yet another patch that I made here with one of the KRC Mathwaves wavetables, this one called Disintegrator. And you see what it's doing here is that this wavetable gets progressively more up and downy, and so we get more and more spectral fuckery as we move through the wavetable. We're moving in reverse, and we're applying this to a patch in Korg Multipoly, which is actually using Multipoly Native, I guess I should say. It's using one of my patches from my 90 patches for Korg for Korg Multipoly collection, which you can find at wavetables.mul. I need to move my mic. It's not a Keith video without moving the mic around now, is it? So it's just playing this arp, right? So anyway, it's such an interesting and cool sound. I can just see this being used in a lot of different places. Let's stop that for a minute. I dismissed multipoly too quickly. Let's turn off the latch mode on our arpeggiator, shall we? Let's do that. Or let's just turn you off entirely, arpeggiator. Maybe we'll just turn latch off. There. Is that off? I think that's off. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I wanted to show how to import custom wavetables and what happens. Let's stop our transport. What you have to do to import wavetables is actually drag and drop them into the Wavefield interface. That's not my preferred mode of doing things. I mean, I would rather have like a setting where you could point to various folders and stuff, but it's not bad. And so let's just grab kind of a wavetable at random. Let's see. What about, let's see, we did a Vosim wavetable already, didn't we? Maybe we should use the, the split wavetables are kind of neat. Let's see, split, shark, no, I don't want shark. I want a split. Sorry, I'm just faffing around here, split wavetables. Let's look at, here, like a split pulse. Okay, so you just drag and drop onto the interface, and then you will get a dialog that lets you select the frame size. So if you're using KRC Mathwaves, you're going to use the Serum style wavetables. They're going to be .wave format, right? And they're 2048 samples per frame. So if you click this button, 2048, now we've got like a perfect representation of our wavetable. Let's turn off this button, which is linking to the DAW transport. So now, while the arpeggiator is not entirely in sync with what's going on in Wavefield, it's close enough for demonstration purposes. You'll note that a lot of my settings got destroyed here, right? So like my floor setting, which was more like this, so that there were deeper cuts. That's cool, right? And my depth setting over here got schwanced, and it probably changed my skew too. Skew is sort of like let's stop you for a second. Oh, I guess my sync setting got turned off too. We're just in like speed mode. Anyway, that's a little bit annoying because you can't just take an existing patch and like just slot in a completely different wavetable. You have to kind of reprogram some things. But once you have a custom wavetable loaded, you're now looking at that directory. And so if you use these back and forward arrows, we can go to different wavetables. But we have that same problem where we have to readjust our depth, which we probably wanted to do here. We have to select our mode again. That's kind of interesting though, right? The split wavetables work really cool in Wavefield because they have these, kind of broad shapes that go across the whole frequency spectrum, which is kind of cool. This one's really complex. So anyway, that's how you can import custom wavetables into Wavefield and use them. And it is cool that you can just kind of go back and forth. Ooh, that would be a good one. And of course, all these things are like automatable. So you could automate these in your DAW, or, you know, in Bitwig, we could attach like an LFO modulator to them. Very cool effect, I think. I would turn stereo up on this and maybe go into phase warp mode. Right, okay, so that's the basic concept there. There's one more interesting use for Wavefield that I wanted to show. Just kind of a serving suggestion, a little idea for you. You know, in Bitwig, the delay devices, they actually have this effects feedback loop in them. And so you can actually put plugins in the feedback loop for the delay. This sound is a Harmon mute trumpet from the brand new, this actually did come out today. Our friend Jared over at Authentic Soundware released Space Age Colors, which is a professional sample library for kind of like swing and big band and or like space age pop kind of stuff, which I'm really into. We did an interview with him in a video a couple months ago, right around the holidays. Go watch that. This is a really great library, and I'm kind of using it in this example, like not in the way it's really intended. Like it has all these different articulations that you could make very complex and convincing, you know, swing orchestra kind of lines, big band orchestra kind of lines. And so it has this Harmon mute trumpet, but one of the articulations is this tenuto, short. That sounded very Blade Runner-y to me. You know, because it sounds a little like a saxophone. It's a beautiful articulation. The volume kind of dips over the course of the note. And so that's available now. Go, if you're into Authentic Soundware stuff, or you're into Space Age Pop, like go get it. It just came out today. And full disclosure, Jared over at Authentic Soundware actually sent me a license key for it. But it is on introductory price for $249. It's definitely worth it. It's a very big collection, like 25 gigabytes, incredibly well programmed and scripted. If you need a solution for this kind of stuff, like Nelson Riddle, Quincy Jones, Henry Mancini, Esquivel inspired stuff, this is the library you're going to want. If you're an existing Authentic Soundware customer, I think there is a loyalty discount on top of the intro price. I think it takes it into $199 or maybe $150. Worth it to expand your library of space age orchestra. So anyway, the idea here is to take you know, this cool sample and put a delay on it, right? So I've got a delay plus module. The delay plus module has the feedback effects, right? So we can put plugins inside of the feedback chain. And so let's turn that on. We put Wavefield in there, and I'll just turn you on. Come on, Wavefield. And now we've got a really cool spectral delay going. And then to really sell kind of the vintagey effect, I put Liminal Space, which is my haunted digital reverb plugin. It's only for Windows right now, but it's Windows Clap and VST3. It's just $10 over at wavetables.lo. Go get it. Here's what it sounds like. The preset I'm using in Liminal Space is the one called Like Our Owl, which of course is an allusion to Blade Runner. This reverb, beyond having a ton of, like, thousands of algorithms, and giving you very deep control over things, and using wavetables as modulators for the various parameters inside of it. So this is another example of, like, cool different things you could do with wavetables. I don't, what was I going to say about it? Anyway, it uses wavetables. It has a very kind of Lexicon 224 kind of sound to it. There's a whole module inside that adjusts the reverb in the same way, or in a similar way to how the Lexicon 224 works. So I'm just going to take up my dry-wet balance a little bit here. And now I've got that cool spectral delay sound getting all kind of washed out by liminal space. So that's another, I think, great application of Wavefield. You know, put it into your effects, your delay feedback loop. I mean, there's all sorts of other ideas you could probably come up with. This is a specific plugin, or sorry, a specific patch that I did for this. But there's another one that's in the factory library that works really well right here too. So this is this one called Beat Boop. You can see it's just kind of square waves, sort of like what we did there with multipoly, but it really does a really nice, interesting, like, stereoization. Let's turn off our reverb so that, move out of the way. Okay. Let's turn off our reverb so we can just kind of hear this. And the deep cuts that it's doing are very satisfying in that delay line. And, like, it almost goes toward, like, going overly resonant and self-oscillating. It's pretty cool. Like, for this patch, I might have to turn down my send to the delay so it doesn't get out of control. I guess I should also point out there is a limiter on Wavefield, and so that can protect your ears so the signal will not, like, go over. But you can still blast yourself out with this. Be careful. I would recommend leaving the limiter on at almost all times. Anyway, so that's Wavefield. Also, we took a look at a cool waveform visualization technique. Go get KRC Mathwaves. It's $29 for the complete collection, which is like 160,000 wavetables. If you're not convinced, go get the free sampler, which has a whole bunch of wavetables, like 1,600, that you could use in things like Wavefield. Be good to each other, have fun making music, and I will talk to you later.